So we're in John chapter 5. We're covering verse 9 to 16. But let me read verse 1 up to 16. After these things, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there in Jerusalem, by the sheep's gate, a pool, which is called in Hebrew Bethesda, having 5 porticos. In this lay a multitude of those who were sick, blind, lame, and withered, waiting for the moving of the water. For the angel of the Lord went down at certain seasons into the pool and stirred up the water. Whoever is then first, after stirring up the water, stepped in and was made well from whatever diseases with which he was afflicted. A man was there who has been 30 years in his sickness. When Jesus saw him laying there and knew that he had already been a long time in that condition, he said to him, "Do you wish to get well?" The sick man answered him, "Sir, I have no man to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. But while I am coming, another steps down before me." And Jesus said to him, "Get up, pick up your pallet, and walk." Immediately, the man became well, picked up his pallet, and began to walk. Now it was the Sabbath on that day. So the Jews were saying to him, who was cured, it is the Sabbath, and it is not permissible for you to carry your pallet. But he answered them, "He who made me well was the one who said to me, 'Pick up your pallet and walk.'" Then he asked him, "Who is the man who said to you, 'Pick up your pallet and walk'?" But the man who was healed did not know who it was, for Jesus had slipped away while there was a crowd in that place. Afterwards, Jesus found him in the temple and said to him, "Behold, you have become well. Do not sin anymore, so that nothing worse may befall you." The man went away and told the Jews that it was Jesus who made him well. For these reasons, the Jews were persecuting Jesus, because he was doing these things on the Sabbath. Interesting, as we mentioned last week, how Bethesda, right? Meaning house of mercy. That was the place where Jews would take their sheep to clean before they sacrifice in the temple, and where the sick people would go, hoping that they would be healed. And yet, in that place, people would avoid going to that place, thinking that they will be defiled, they will be impure. So they were avoiding that place kasi may mga sakit may mga ketong, may mga paralyzed, yung mga maliduming sheep, that's where they take them to clean. So it's an unclean place. And I was mentioning last week that it's so funny how we how we move in our normal religious activities and neglect the very reason why we have our own religion.
So that pool, that's where they clean the sheep, but that's where they jump also?
Yes. Well, it's a double pool. As I mentioned, the pool it has 5 arch, right? And it looks 5 arch because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 in the middle. And if you look at it, and the 5 sides represented to them the Pentateuch: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. And if you look at that double pool, it looks like the 2 tablets of the commandment. As I mentioned, they like a lot of symbolism on these things. And as I was saying, a lot of times people, they go with their religious activities to worship God, to thank God, yet neglect the poor, neglect their religious responsibility in the hope of pleasing God by their traditions. Right? And Jesus did not avoid the place, but instead went to that place. The very place that people were avoiding is the very place that Jesus went to. And here, what he did is he healed the man by simply saying, "Get up, pick up your pallet, and walk." And we ended our discussion last week in verse 9. Immediately the man became well and picked up his pallet and began to walk. But the thing here is that at the end of chapter 9, verse 9, John slides in a phrase, slides in a sentence that says, "Now it was a Sabbath on that day." There, John now sets the stage where the controversy and antagonist attitude will start piling up. This was a start of the formal persecution of Jesus.
So, bakit dito nakalagay? So many manuscripts omit verse 3 and all of verse 4.
Yes. As I was explaining that last week, when they write the manuscripts before, they write it dire-diretso, right? Da, 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 da. The problem there is that what happens if you forget a line? What they would do is they would write it on the, like me, on the side, right? On the margins. And point an arrow that this line should be there. Okay? That's if they forget a line. Instead of rewrite, you know the manuscripts, right? It's rolled. Ano, bura? Rewrite? O, sa sides na lang. Now, what also happens is sometimes they use the margins as a commentary. So people would write a commentary on the passage. Right? It is not true that an angel really goes down and steers the water. It was only a commentary of one of the scribes. That some of them thought that it was Bart. You got it? So that section in NIV does not exist. Right? In our version, it is
Tsaka naka-italics.
italics in parentheses. Got it? So that's how that works. So we see in verse 9, now it was a Sabbath on that day. The Jews were really very strict in observing the law, as I mentioned, because they have been occupied, they were being Hellenified, they were trying to erase the culture of the Jews. And the Pharisee, because they're strict with the law, they want to ensure that the generations will never forget what the law is and what does it mean. With that, they came out with sub-laws on how to apply the law. And those sub-laws became law to them also. Right? Verse 10. So the Jews were saying to him who was cured, "It is the Sabbath, and it is not permissible for you to carry your pallet." The Jews saw him walking.
Oo nga. Imbis na, why are you walking? Ang
Right.
napansin eh. Why are you picking up your
Yeah. And the thing is, that's not a casual statement. That statement is a heavy statement. It's a weighted statement. It carries with it a lot of pressure. Why? Because in Leviticus chapter 31, why don't we go to Leviticus chapter 31? Robert, can you please read Leviticus chapter 31, verse 12 and 14?
Leviticus 31.
Yes. Verse 12 and 14. 12 to 14. Wala bang Leviticus 31?
Wala. 27.
Who? Then 27. Let me now think. 27. Exodus. Sorry, it's Exodus 31. What did I say? Leviticus. Exodus 31. Am I right? I'll double check. Yes. 12. 12 to 14.
The sign of Sabbath.
Yeah.
Sabbath. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, But as for you, speak to the sons of Israel, saying, You shall surely observe my Sabbaths, for this is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord who sanctifies you. Therefore you are to observe the Sabbath, for it is holy to you. Everyone who profanes it shall surely be put to death. For whoever does any work on it, that person shall be cut off from among his people.
Yeah. Everyone who profanes it shall be put to death. Wow. And a guy comes to you and says, it is the Sabbath. It is not permissible for you to carry your pallet. What are you doing? Can you feel the pressure of that question? And that guy knows that the penalty for not observing the Sabbath is what? You gotta die. You can be put to death. Oh, what would you feel? It's like standing against Ferdinand Marcos. Oh, the pressure is strong. In CCF Alabang, where are we now? What law?
Honor your name. Honor the name.
Second commandment.
Second pala.
Second commandment.
Second.
Okay, but let's go to the fourth commandment. Exodus 20. Right? Just to... And I don't know how they'll discuss this, but let me just read it to you. Verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Right? That is the command. Remember. What that means is it has been told to them already in the past. Do you remember? Don't forget it. Remember what? The Sabbath. Right? What does Sabbath mean? Day of rest. So, God is telling them that you are to remember the day of rest, the day that you should rest, and to keep it holy, which means what? To keep it separated. Right? Separated for the use of God. And the Bible tells us that when God rested, right? When God rested on the seventh day, go to Exodus 31, verse 17. Doon sa binasa natin. Exodus 31, verse 17. Chiki, you want to read that?
It is a sign between me and the Israelites forever. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and earth, and on the seventh day he ceased and was refreshed.
He ceased and was refreshed. Right? He